Well, welcome to this afternoon's program. It's part of our historical Hutch memory history. We're talking military this time. And there's a lot of military that came right out of this town, like all these gentlemen here, Mr. Doug Myers. I know him so good. We went to high school together. Mr. Skoog and Mr. Rasmussen. Mr. Rasmussen is our Second World War person. So let's really appreciate him coming down here. Doug is Korea and Vietnam. Mr. Skoog is Vietnam, and I'm Cold War, a very important part of our whole thing. So we're going to get started on this. We want to go back and remember all the people that got told to go to service. Every one of us had a draft looking at us. That's something a lot of people, of course, everybody in this room will remember it, except one. But we all were subject to draft. And if you wanted a job, I was here in 1956, and I was doing all these odd jobs, unloading boxcars here, working for her dad, and all these things for $1 an hour. So you wanted to get into 3M if you could. They might pay $1.50 an hour. In fact, when I started, it was $1.43 an hour. That was way back in 1960. But I wanted to get in there because we had insurance and everything else. I went to 3M in 1956, and Elsa Young says, come back when you got the military done. So what does that tell you? You're really underneath the threshold. So I went down and stuck my name in, go ahead, call me. Somebody else got relieved that month. I went in November of 1957. Trained in Carson, Colorado, Fort Benning, Georgia, and Fort Jackson, South Carolina. When I finished my training, I was sent to Germany and spent 18 months in Germany. Had a very enjoyable time over there. I was in communications, and not only in communications, but I was also a lot of freedom. We were in charge of the Rhine River. So that's my history back in there. Now I'm going to go to Mr. Rasmussen. He's the senior citizen.
What's your name?
Bill Arndt.
And the camera.
Bill Arndt. Mr. Don Rasmussen.
Hi, I was born back in 1927, and I wasn't home after I was 14 and a half. I went to live with the neighbors, and then when I got 17, I was supposed to graduate from high school, which I did, but I wasn't there. And the Navy come to the high school, and they wanted us to enlist in the Navy, but they had a special program for 2 years. You could enlist in 2 years. And otherwise it was 4 years. And I got my dad to sign for me, so I was just turned 17 when I joined the Navy. And when I joined the Navy, World War II, Germans were still fighting, the Japs were still fighting, but I took my boot camp in San Diego, Minnesota, or San Diego, California, and we were run through the boot camp. Instead of 16 weeks, we got 8 weeks, because they wanted men Roosevelt was gonna invade Japan. And so I got on went to boot camp, come home for 7 days. I got on a ship in Vallejo, California, well, it had to be early 45. But by the time I got through boots and got back home and got out and got transferred over from San Diego up to, the Germans had quit fighting, but I know why, because they heard I was coming. Yeah, true. And then I went on a ship overseas and they dropped the bomb. And then the war was over with the Japs, and they also heard I was coming. They quit. And I went over with, so I didn't do any fighting. And I went over on a USS Sierra, and I ended up in Tsingtao, China. And then they transferred me on another ship, and I went down to Shanghai, China, on Deep Destroyer Escort as a passenger, and there they dropped me off on it. I spent the rest of my time on an LST. That's a ship that lands the tanks, all doors open. And after the war was over, we went up and down the coast of China. We went down to all over. We went down Hainan, Midway, past the equator, and we dropped off the tanks. Our ship could hold 20 Sherman tanks at one time. And they opened the doors, and I think the government gave them away, I'm not sure. But that's basically what I did. And I spent 2 years there, with 20 months on it. And then when we were in China, communists were walking the streets with their boots and they did the goose step just like the Germans did. And we had, I think it was, I had a month and a half to go on my 2 years, and we got a Japanese Imperial, somebody come aboard the ship, and all the ships had to be out of the harbor by Thursday on noon, or the Japanese communists were going to take them. So we hightailed out of there. LST was, top speed was about 12 knots. And we left with that LST, and it was pretty, they tried to sell it to the Chinese nationalists, but they didn't want it. It was too rich. And we were like sand pebbles, if you remember the movie. Anyway, we got going, and then we run into a they said it was the worst typhoon that they had in 60 years. And with a LST, you only draw 13 feet of water, and we had no tanks in there. Tank was all empty. So we bounced like a cork. I mean, we never slept we couldn't sleep in our bunks. We laid between two walls on the floor for 2.5 days. And my job was to take sounding watches go around and drop a tube in the beds of bilges and see how much water was in there. And I had a report I made. And we were about 2.5 days, and that night about 8 o'clock, the captain got on the microphone and didn't call general quarters. We just had a notice for us guys, and he says that he has to tell us this because the ship he didn't think it was going to make it, because it's put together, the LSC so it gives in the middle, and I think 7 of the 15 rivets on the starboard side was broke. So he said, make friends with your neighbor, or your maker. Well, I went back it was about 10 o'clock, and I went back and crawled in my spot, and I went on the floor, and I got up at 12 o'clock, because I had a 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock sounding. I was on guard duty or sounding duty, and I went up to the bridge, and the captain said, what are you doing up here? I says, well, I'm going to take soundings. He said, forget about it. The bilges are full and the pumps are all going. Stay up here with me till you're 4 o'clock. And about 2 o'clock that night, we were tossing pretty badly, but it started to get a little better. And I went and guy told me to get the captain a cup of coffee, so I went and I got a cup of coffee, and I talked to him, and he says, you know, this is getting better. I think we're going to make it. And we did, but we didn't move very fast. We had something wrong with the props, and it took 31 days to get back to the United States. 31 days, now they make it in 3 or 2. Anyway, that's my Navy experience. But I was 17 years old, the farthest I'd been away from home was Excelsior, so. And I'm 17 and a half, I'm sitting out up and down the coast of China. We went to a lot of places. Midway, we went to Hainan. But outside of that, I didn't do no fighting. But I was there. I had volunteered. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Now that was the old ships. They really, you see them in harbors. I rode back on one too and went over in one. They were pretty bad. Next one we got here is, we went to high school, and here is the meanest wrestler Hutch has ever produced. I know because I was his wrestling dummy. And he just loved to put that one hold on everybody. And you didn't want to move because you were afraid your neck was going to break. Doug Myers.
Hey, Bill. I need to just introduce me, Doug Meyer. I was looking around the crowd, I see my old partner back there in the back, Jack. Another one over there, there's a few of them I recognize. I graduated here from Hutch, and I think I was out of high school 2 days, and I was in Fort Leonard Wood, ready for basic training. So I went directly from high school into the Army, and I did my training at Fort Leonard Wood. And then later on, I'll tell you a little story. I was supposed to go airborne with McCormick's and all the boys here. There was a whole bunch of us. The recruiter talked me into staying here for a while and graduated. So I did. And somehow the orders got messed up. And when I graduated from the 2nd 8 at Leonard Wood, they said, you got a choice. You can go to airborne school, or you can go to Germany. Well, as it turned out, I could have went to Korea. And there was 200 in our graduating class, 197 of them went to Korea. Me and 2 other guys went to Germany. Now I got a choice, I can jump out of airplanes or I can go see the world, right? Guess what? I went to Germany. And I spent my years over there, 3 years. Come back, got out, went to St. Cloud for a year. Wasn't doing too good there, so I went back in the military. And I spent some time in Fort Carson, Colorado. Then I went to Anchorage, Alaska, where I spent 3 years. And I left there just before the big earthquake hit, just in time. And I went to Germany for 5 years and come back here, was stationed in New Cumberland Army Depot in Pennsylvania, come back, went back to Germany for another 3 years. All told, I think I spent 14 years in Germany. And as you can tell, I'm a 24-year retired vet. Fortunately for me, when I got out, I met this, after a little bit, I met this gal by the name of Hazel Zitz. You know, she worked for the city, and I got to meet her, and she got me on with the city of Hazel. And we've been good friends ever since. But I spent 20 years with the city as maintenance supervisor, and retired there in '97. Well, they needed part-timers out at Creekside Soils. You know, familiar with Creekside Soil? Well, you look through the window, you'll see me. I'm there every Saturday, still working. this will be the end thing here. Tomorrow we have open house out at Creekside. Come on out, have a free meal and see what we do out there. That's about it, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. I could start telling the story, but he knows what it's gonna be. What about this Minneapolis paper? You retired from them too.
No, I didn't do that. No.
Anyway, he was a good employee of the city of Hutchinson, good military person, and by the way, he did bring back a German bride. And she worked at the First National Bank, Marquette, and Wells Fargo. All them years.
She was a teller there for a long time.
Yeah. So she was just a wonderful person and kept him under control. Which was a job in itself. Anyway, we got into you never went to Korea then? You went to Vietnam?
Went to Vietnam. Yeah, I missed that, didn't I?
Yeah.
I missed Vietnam. I was there for 13 months.
So he's been around the world. Our next guest is very famous in this town. You look right down the street here, Veterans Memorial Park. There's the man, all the way. He's got the Gold Star family. He's got 2 plaques of the wall that traveled through the country. He's got a helicopter he personally picked out to bring there. And he worked hard on that. But I'm going to let him tell you about his military career, which is unbelievable. He's a Vietnam veteran.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here. I grew up in Hutchinson. I tell my wife that, and she said, you haven't grown up yet. So, I'm trying. But anyway, I graduated in 67 from Hutch, and my brother had already enlisted in the Army. Like the bill said, we were all going to be drafted if we weren't in college or we didn't have some of the deferments that were out there, and we had none of those. And my dad said, you can't go to college unless you can afford it. We don't take anything out on payments except a car or a house. So, well, we're not going to college. So he enlisted and he went over to Vietnam, and he and I both were patriotic. We believed in our country, we still do, and we basically did what our country asked us to do. So in February of my senior year, I was 17, I enlisted on a delayed enlistment program where when you get out of school, you go into the Army. So graduated June 3rd, and on June 5th, I was in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, doing push-ups and 4-mile runs and all the good stuff. My brother was over there already for a year in Vietnam. He was in the infantry. Not a good thing. He saw a lot of bad things happen, but he extended his tour so I wouldn't have to go. What is it? The law that says you don't have to send 2 brothers or 2 family members over at the same time. Who were the 5 guys in World War II? Yeah, the 5 brothers that were killed. So they wouldn't let you or make you go over, but they wouldn't keep you from going over. So I joined up under this really nice program called Fun Travel and Adventure. And 17, and a couple of those things were true. But I signed up for assault helicopters. And I didn't want to be a cook, I didn't want to be infantry, I didn't want to jump out of airplanes. There's only a couple things that fall out of the sky, and I won't tell you what those are. So I went to after basic training, I went to Fort Eustis, Virginia, helicopter training, and after 8 or 10 weeks of that, I went to Vietnam in December of '67. But while I was in Fort Eustis, we had a 3-hour pass one night, on a Saturday night, And we went to Virginia Beach, first time I'd ever been to an ocean. And I thought, wow, this is really gonna be cool. There's a band playing, there's food, this really nice bar, restaurant on the beach. And we got there and they wouldn't let me in because I had to be 18. I said, well, I'm in the Army. And they go, you gotta be 18 to get in here, kid. I said, so I sat and looked at the ocean for about 3 hours. My buddies were all having a good time. You know, it seems like you were never old enough. And then it'd get to a point where you're too old. But I graduated from that and went over. And a general in Fort Lewis, Washington found out that my brother was over there. And he extended so I wouldn't have to go. Well, I told the general, I said, I didn't join the Army to polish boots in Fort Dix. I went in to be in the helicopter squadron, our company. He tried 3 times to keep me from going over, and finally he said, I can't keep you from going over, so good luck, son. Shook my hand, I went over. So then my brother and I kind of got into a match, who could stay there the longest. So when I was done with my first tour, I extended another tour. He extended for his 3rd tour. Then I extended for my 3rd tour, and he extended for his 4th tour. So we ended up 7 tours as brothers over there. We spent two years at the same time in Vietnam. And I did get to see him twice, once in '68 and once '69 in Saigon. I was going on a couple different missions and ended up in Saigon. But I stayed one time too long with him, an extra night. And I had to get to the southernmost point of Vietnam, which is called Vung Tau. We had a special helicopter training session down there. I could not get a ride. It was during the Tet Offensive of '68, and nothing was available. And I said, I need to get there, I'm gonna be AWOL. And that's not a good thing. So he went down to the river and he came back and he said, I got you a ride down there. I said, what is it, Jeep, truck, helicopter, what? He goes, Navy Swift boat. Here's an 8-hour drive down the river from Saigon to Vung Tau on a Navy Swift boat with rifles or machine guns out both sides. We got attacked 3 times on the way down. I said, I'm gonna die in the Navy. That's not what I signed up for. But the Navy boys took really good care of me. They said, just stay down. I had my weapons and stuff with. They said, no, just stay down, we'll take care of you. So they had their machine guns out both sides, and they were minor skirmishes, but I said, I'm glad they took care of me. And I got to Vung Tau. It was an unbelievable sight. There were beautiful beaches, lifeguard stands, hot dog and cotton candy stands, Beach Boy music playing. I'm looking back up the river, like, where did I just come from? This looks like California. Well, we found out it's an in-country R&R center for both sides, Viet Cong and Americans. If you went to a bar or restaurant, you had to be out of there by 5 o'clock. Viet Cong would take over from 5 o'clock. Nobody shoots anybody. It was kind of an informal truce. I did not stay longer than 5 o'clock. And nobody that I knew of ever got hurt doing that. I think both sides had enough. Kind of like the World War I thing where the Germans and Americans came out of the trenches and shook hands and nice to each other for a few hours and then go back to war. So, but I was up there I was up near Cambodia, 8 miles from the border up in the highlands, and we were flying 20 miles west. And I said, we're not in Kansas anymore, we're in Cambodia. And the guys I was working with, they said, well, how long did it take you to figure that out? I said, well, when I left, the president said, we are not in Cambodia. Yes, we were. And that's why we went without dog tags, no markings on our helicopters, no IDs, nothing. If you got shot down, no knowledge of you being there. Another one of those government things. Luckily, never got shot down there. But I did meet up with a gentleman who had been in the Marines for a while. And if you've been to the helicopter dedication, I had him there from Arlington, Virginia, Washington area. He was working with the local mountain yard people, which are indigenous people that live in bamboo huts. They're up about 10, 12 feet off the ground so the tigers and the elephants don't get them. and the lizards and monkeys, whatever else. And he got captured during the Tet Offensive. He was out of the Marines already, but he came back as a U.S. ag worker, trying to show these local people how to make more crops per acre in their jungle habitat. Well, it's a big, long story, but he got captured along with a missionary and a hospital worker. They had these hospital, a mission compound, an orphanage, leprosarium, if you can believe that, for lepers, up in the jungles, and they were all volunteers from the United States. Well, the North Vietnamese didn't care about that. They came in and they executed 7 missionaries, a number of hospital workers. They executed 97 orphans in the orphanage, and they killed 900 Rade tribe mountaineers, just executed them in the street. Never heard about that on Walter Cronkite's show. But if an American would have killed somebody by mistake, that's all over the news. But they can murder anybody they want. But anyway, Mountaineer people were very, very nice, very loyal to us. And we evacuated a couple of villages because they were going to be overrun. So we'd go in there with our helicopters and take them out. In exchange, they gave us some nice little presents. These are Montagnard brass bracelets. They're kind of rare, and you can't have those. So those are mine. But it's really a cool keepsake, I think. This is my immunization record. I don't ever want to go through that again. About 100 different shots. This is my helmet cover. We'd always put our month down there, and when we got through the month, we'd put a check mark by it. So luckily I had a lot of check marks. And this is what's left of a mortar. A mortar is an explosive device. It goes down in the tube, shoots out, and when it hits the ground, it explodes. Lots of shrapnel. We probably got hit every 3rd or 4th night with 30 or 40 of these. This is what's left of them that you can dig out of the runway or your tent. Got to go to Singapore once and Sydney, Australia twice on R&R. So it wasn't a total loss. I did have a couple of good times, but one of the reasons I got that wall in town last year, my own opinion is that a number will tell you one thing, what it represents is another thing. I can tell you 5, 10, 100, it's just a number. We came into our runway one day and there was a double rotor Chinook unloading infantry bodies in plastic bags. They were white bags. I'm counting them and going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 21 bodies in plastic bags. To me, it looked like 100. There were so many bodies there. And that's only 21. Now you've got a wall that tells you 58,281. And you look at one little section of that wall, and there's probably 150 names right here, and you have 140 panels in Washington also. So to see what that number represents meant a lot to me. And I had 87 of my fellow aviators are on that wall. So I'm happy to be here. I think, I did get out. When I got out, I wasn't old enough I didn't smoke. But you can't smoke, drink, vote, or buy a car in Minnesota. Not old enough. I wasn't quite 21 yet. And the gentleman in Chevrolet dealer in Minneapolis, like this beautiful Z28 out there, I was going to buy it with 35 $100 bills. That was pretty cool. He says, "No, kid, come back when you grow up." And he walked away. The week before, I was flying co-pilot in a helicopter gunship in a combat zone, but I'm not old enough to pay you cash for a car. Come back when you grow up. So, here we are.
Thank you, Dave. Let's also give him a big hand for the stuff he's done for the city of Hutch on this program. And then 2 plaques are very special. Tell us about that.
Well, the two wall panels we have down there came off of the wall that we had in Hutchinson. They had put two new ones up before they came here, or as they came here, and they had the two used ones that needed refinishing. 27 years they've had this wall going around America. 33 cities per year. We're the only city in that amount of time that have those two panels. Beginning and the end of the war, 1959, 1975, they were so impressed with us, and when I say us, I mean all the people that contributed to this thing. The volunteers, the sponsors, the workers, the city. Everybody did such a beautiful job that they were so impressed. And they actually called about 2 months ago and said, can we have all the cities in America this year that are hosting the wall, can we have them call you? And I said, why? And they said, we want them to do it as perfectly as you did. You meaning all the people. And that was pretty cool. And he asked, the lady in Washington who I dealt with, she also asked her major tour director on a different day, who's the best, what is the best city you've ever dealt with? He said Hutchinson, Minnesota.
That's the man. And it was enjoyable working with these, putting that, getting the stuff out of the truck and putting it back in.
And this gentleman helped a lot too.
Well,
He and his whole family.
I cooked, and my family worked, and it was a very special time. I got to bring my brother here from California. He's a professor, and he goes around the country right now helping veterans get over this. And there's one reason that he's doing that. He had to do it himself. His wife made him go to classes to get his mind straightened out after Vietnam. 13 months in Vietnam, never seen a town. He was in the jungle the whole time. Now he's going around in groups in Maryland and Washington to help them talk about their experience, like Dave is doing here. That's the biggest part of healing. When he was here at the wall, 2 plaques at the wall, he had 7 of his group on them 2 plaques, 7. One of them spent 1 day, carried the radio my brother always carried, and he was killed. So I mean, and he has a picture of each one of them, and he was standing in front of that wall. Pretty quick, we had a big crowd around. He was telling about these guys. You graduated with him, didn't you? I mean, he went through hell. And there's one thing, I'm militaristic, let's put it that way. Not that I like it, but if you don't behave yourself, get kicked in the butt. My brother came out to my farm, and what were we doing that day but butchering chickens, which is an ugly, dirty, nasty job. And he was getting ready to go to Canada. And I made one statement that I suffered for 2 years on it while he was gone. I said, stand up and be a man. I never even thought about it. He went to Fort Lewis, Washington for 16 weeks, Vietnam. Never seen a town, Vietnam. Letters that come from him, they were all red because of the red clay. When he got done in Vietnam, here's something that just blows your mind. Instead of being able to get out, he was working on his master's degree in education. He was teaching at Howard Lake when he went in. He thought, well, I could maybe get out early. Only got 18, he had 18 months in. No, they sent him to Checkpoint Charlie, Berlin. Give him all new clothes, everything. I mean, all this Vietnam clothes, they were garbage. He spent the rest of the time in Checkpoint Charlie. But then he came back, and his military career wasn't over yet. He got his degree. He got called back for the Wisconsin National Guard training. You know, you're 2 years in, 2 years active reserve, and 2 years inactive reserve. He said the only time I ever volunteered, this colonel came out, he says, asked if there was anybody had been in Vietnam. Our brother raised his hand. Soldier, come with me. And he had an experience that you wouldn't believe. He lived in officers' barracks. Them 2 weeks he was training. And on the day they had their war games thing, these 2 men, using Vietnam tactics, he eliminated the Wisconsin National Guard. Just like that. And that's Vietnam tactics. You know what they are. Hit and run, and that's it. Any questions? Please give.
I've got one thing to say about wanting to get in the service. When I was young, we lived in the north end of town up from where Hardee's used to be, and we'd go to the top of the hill when Camp Ripley trucks would come flying through. And we'd be on our tricycles and bikes, and we'd be telling them to do this, and all the soldiers would be honking their horns. And I said, boy, someday I want to be one of those Army guys. I want to be that. And then watching TV, we'd watch the World War II and Korean movie. And guys like this inspired me to go in the service. They were my heroes. And they still are.
Does anybody here remember when the National Guard in 1951 left from this depot? Hazel, Kathy, Garkerseen marched them right down this street. There was a train car like that. There were 2 or 3 of them, and they marched them on that. We got out of high school that day to come down and watch them do that, and it sticks in my mind. So I asked one question. I've asked this all the time. I knew there was a picture taken from the elevator over here. Milt Altmeyer did it. I'm pretty sure he's the one that had it, of them coming to the train. If that picture, if that could ever show up, it would be history of Hutchinson, because it's very important. Seeing our troops, what was the number? I think there's a whole battalion, wasn't there?
Company, whatever.
You know, whatever was stationed in Hutch that came from the armory up there, marched down here and got on the train. So it sticks in your mind. Yes, Kathy?
It was about 0 when we had to walk out of the high school
Walk down here.
down, and then down here, you didn't want to risk with that weather. It took a while to get everyone in the train, and I think we're down here about an hour. Boy, we hurried back to high school. It was cold.
That's
Really.
right.
About the last days of January when it was.
Yeah. They went to Camp Rucker, Alabama. So, how many of you have served in the military? Quite a number. In our class, Doug, 1954, I think 90% of us got in the military, right?
John George, the guy,
Yep.
times at that time.
I mean, a lot of the guys signed up right after school like Doug did and went in and got his.
My dad was in the Navy, and we had 4 boys, and they all served. My brother was with Patton. He went 2 weeks after the conflict. He got drafted on the first draft by our older brother, and he left with 2 weeks after the Company B left here, and he got to Patton. He stayed with Patton through Africa, up into Italy, and he ended up in the Battle of the Bulge and got wounded real bad. Spent 27 days in one foxhole. Then he ended up in the hospital in Washington, D.C. Well, my mother got a telegram that he was missing in action and presumed dead. And she had him already buried. and she got another telegram and it said that they found him in the hospital in East France. And then so he still lives.
Well, like I said, I went to Germany also, and had good duty, Cold War. Now, what is the Cold War? The Cold War is between the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Until a few years, what year was that they passed a law that us Cold War veterans were considered Army or military. We had no, I couldn't belong to the Legion. You couldn't belong to nothing. We had no benefits, you know. We couldn't go to the VA to get things done. And they finally passed the law that, yes, they were military. And I can always, I've given talks before, and one of the things I will always say, I was with the battalion in Grafenwehr, Germany, and the Russian army was 15 miles away in Czechoslovakia. We'd fire in the morning, practice fire. 10 o'clock at night, you could set a clock by it. All at once their barracks windows start rattling. The Russians were shooting at 10 o'clock at night, just to let us know they were there. And so I said, that was pretty close, 15 miles apart. Two great armies in the world. My duty was, I was communications, so I did quite a bit of driving around the Jeep, checking radios out. We were in charge of the Rhine River. We had trailers loaded for 5 bridges in case something happened. Sound dropped out, right? These 5 trailers were on call anytime we had an alert. And it was exciting. One of our alert stations, Speyer, Germany, have you ever been there? Speyer, Germany is just a little town off the Rhine River. And our station was out in the woods by Speyer. Because I was in communications, I could take the Jeep and go through the woods. You know, didn't have to worry about anything. But there was a guest house down there. So you go to the guest house, buy a couple of bottles of cognac, bring them back. Boys had cognac out in the woods. Good stuff, wasn't it, though?
Yeah, I guess so.
But our duty was mainly of crossing the Rhine River with floating bridges and also floating pontoon. Our obligation, once a year, we had to qualify to carry the atomic cannon across the Rhine River. What a thing. I mean, that was a big gun, 280 millimeter, 2 tractors, one in the front and one in the back. You could drive a Jeep right underneath the front tractor. And we crossed the Rhine River on floats. So it was really interesting duty. I enjoyed it. In fact, I enjoyed it so much, I even got a son that was born over there. Heidelberg, Germany. So we did some good. Any other questions now? Yes, sir.
Just one question. You mentioned the Montagnards. Are they the same as the Hmong, or are they related to the Hmong?
It's somewhat on the same line. They were. What?
Battery's dead.
Speak up.
Just talk about it.
They were Laotian Chinese up in the mountains, and they were very loyal to us. The South Vietnamese treated them like we used to treat black people. No, they're Americans, but they're black. North Vietnamese hated them with a passion. They'd kill them as soon as they would look at them, because they were loyal to us. Very nice people. Very primitive, loincloths, and sometimes the ladies had nothing on top. They had coconut shells for banjos. I've got back home I've got it's a we call it a bow and arrow, but they're little bamboo arrows with a teak board with a, I don't even know what it is. It's not a string, it's something out of a tree that you can pull it back and cock it, and it would be good for about 50 feet, and that was it. But the mountain yards were, they are indigenous with Laotian and Chinese. They're very nice people though.
Thank you. I meant to say too, thank you for your service, all of you. Thank you very much for keeping our nation free and helping others.
Okay, go ahead.
One quick story. I was on a rescue recovery mission to go to crash sites, and a lot of it wasn't good, some of it was okay. We went to a minor rescue recovery mission where no one was hurt, crashed helicopter. And we got a call that there was a really bad crash about 5 minutes away. We shot over there, and here's this helicopter down in the barbed wire off the end of the runway. The pilot had a broken back. We got him out of there. We called for medevac right away. Two of the crew chief and the co-pilot got out. The crew chief actually ran over and ripped the door off the front of this helicopter. Just ripped it off. It's all metal and magnesium. Got the co-pilot out. He was trapped. And the gunner was underneath. It's upside down, all smashed. We could see that he was breathing, but we found out later he had a broken neck, broken back, broken legs. Skull was broken. And we got a tow truck, pulled the thing up, got him out of there on a stretcher, got him on a medevac. We never saw him again. This was March 23rd of 1969. This gentleman survived, and he put a little letter together on our company website. He'd never been on there before. Told the story, and I said, I know this story. We were there, we got him out of this helicopter. He was in Venice, Florida. We were in Fort Myers Beach. I got a hold of him, and we met up in the middle, all tears and hugs. I said, I can't believe you're alive. And his wife was crying, and she's just, that he survived this thing. He was many months in body cast in Hong Kong and back in the States. 52 years later, after the crash, we met back up again. Now we're good friends.
You see this quilt, changing subject a little bit, this quilt that's on the table. This is a quilt of valor. Our ladies in town here, the Quilting Club, have made hundreds of these.
I got one.
All of us veterans,
You guys.
you got one.
You got one.
I go.
And right now, they're so appreciated. We had a family member, one got it, and he actually broke down and cried. And he talked about Vietnam. He was a helicopter mechanic on a helicopter carrier. And they would go into North Vietnam and try to bring out the pilots that went down. And he actually cried. He never told his family what he did. You know, and this is really wrong. He came back to the United States at San Diego, and they issued civilian clothes on the boat so they could get off the boat. That's what these guys went through. And that's where this quilting thing came up, to give quilts to the veterans who had served. Now, I'm going to do a plug for the quilters. They need money. They need money bad to keep doing this. They have ladies that do the long arm sewing, the batting, and most of the material is given to them, and they do all the work. And then they present it to military people. So if you, yes,
What do those, do you know what they represent, those star-looking things and stuff? I mean, are they,
well, everyone is different. Everyone has got a different. Right here, this one was made by Joanne Clymer. And this is USA. Some of them got a big picture, Navy, or what would yours have on? You remember?
I don't know. Okay, it's a plaid kilt, it's different color though.
Yep, they're all different. I mean, a lot of the material, they salvage material from the quilt shops.
We got stars and flags and.
Yep, it's, and we've given them, even Doug got one.
Took a while.
Yeah, that took a while. Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment on the Quilts of Valor. My husband no longer has his, he has died. We didn't know who we should pass it on to. And then I remembered, my grandson is a Marine in Washington DC in Quantico right now, protecting our country. He's gonna own it. So, another
Pass it
generation.
down. Usually the families keep them, so. Elroy, you got it. And it just, it's an honor to get it. We dress them up like a Indian with a caboose on it, and it's, and I know my wife is here. She's got them going continuously quilting, but like she will tell you, they need money to buy all this quilting.
How do you write the check out and who do you give it to?
Who do you give, who takes the money right now? Naomi Paulzine, right?
Joy, she's been, and Schumann
And Schumann,
yeah.
Mrs. Cheney was just at our Legion meeting a couple of nights ago.
okay,
She was soliciting for.
same thing, yeah, Mrs. Cheney. There's a group of women and they work, how many hours on a quilt? How many hours did you put on a quilt?
That's,
Don't count them. Hundreds.
hundreds, right? I know.
It's a hobby of theirs,
When you're a volunteer, you do a little this thing.
so there's
It's a hobby.
many women doing this, so if there's any money available someplace, DAV has been doing a quite a, helping as much as they can, so. Any questions? I'm still 5 minutes short, right?
This is not a question, but all of you who have been in the military know, and other people who probably don't know, the people that are left behind, the moms, that my mom had 2 sons in the Air Force and 1 in the Army. They're special people.
That is why he's got this. Go ahead,
Well,
tell
my
me.
brother and I, we, at the same time, my mom was a nervous wreck and she had a nervous breakdown at 3M. But she came out of it okay, once we got back home. It's tough being a mom or dad.
For the family, I mean, that's why they put this Gold Star family.
It's not just one person that passes away, it's 10, 15 family members and all of their friends. So it's the whole family that suffers from it. And that's why we went to Gold Star Family instead of Gold Star Mothers. We recognized the mothers, but the dad would sit in the back and he'd go, what about me? It's my son too. So instead of Gold Star Mothers, we're all going to Gold Star Families now. Like the Mackeys, you know, they all,
Yep.
4 or 5 people weren't recognized and the mom would sit up front. So now the whole family be recognized.
Well, that's, we gotta thank each one of these for their service, and we will think of another subject for next year.
Yes.
I did do an introduction, but I am beside myself with the honor of having you all present. This is such important history, such important stories. Thank you for your service. I'm gonna start crying, I'm the librarian that's very, I am what I am. So our next presentation will be Friday, August 15th, and I think Jim Fahey is gonna present. And we'll be here at the depot again. So that'll be our third one for the summer. I think this is our third year of bringing summer Voices from History Past to the library and Historic Hutchinson. We're so grateful for Historic Hutchinson and all they do, and this venue is perfect, and thank you for coming, and we'll see you again next month. Thank you very much.
Oh, by the way, I got this train up here. These were the toys that during the Second World War that you got, and I was pretty lucky. I kept some of it. So take a look at our stuff.